So today we're going to be talking about the proper way to lift your Jeep. So this guide is actually what helped me pick all the parts for my Jeep, and I want to share it with you guys so you guys don't make any mistakes and you have the proper lift for your Jeep Grand Cherokee. So on the Facebook group, Jeep WJs Only, there is a guide that you can follow for the clutch fan or lifting your Jeep. Today we're gonna focus on the lifting your Jeep one. So you go on top where it says featured, you click on that. And if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, you're gonna see somebody named Jeffrey Hanna. And all the way at the bottom, you're gonna see a whole list of parts that he recommends that you guys do to lift your Jeep properly. So he starts off by saying a piece together lift using the best parts to achieve the best possible lift. So what that means, it's a bunch of parts put together to make your Jeep the best that it can be lifted instead of just buying a kit. So the first thing on the list is something that I do have and I got from this list. So he has recommended long arms, either the Trailforge kit or the Iron Rock kit. And the reason I went with the Iron Rock is because it is bolt-on. You don't have to weld anything. The Trailforge, you do have to weld, so that's something to keep in mind. I personally do not know how to weld and I'm barely getting started on that journey, so the Iron Rock made way more sense for me. And one thing to keep in mind right now, it is about to be Black Friday, so you're gonna have a bunch of deals on parts. So be on the lookout for those deals. This is a perfect time to buy parts for a lift kit or for your Jeep. So the second thing on the list that Jeffrey adds is the steering corrections from Trailforge. So right now, Trailforge is a little bit backed up since they are moving shops from California to Virginia. On their webpage, they have everything announced. So I believe the recent one was that they're almost done moving everything and everything should be back up and running. Just know that Trailforge is parts that it's honestly worth waiting for. When I ordered my steering kit, there was a shortage on steel and I waited maybe about 2 months, but once I got it in, well worth it, made my steering a whole lot better. They are in the process of moving, so be aware of that, but I still recommend Trailforge 100%. And the kit that Jeffrey recommends is the over the axle kit, which is what I have on my Jeep. You have the options of Heim or 1 tons, and I recommend doing 1 tons. Heim joints aren't good for the street, and in a lot of places, they're not street legal. So just get the 1 tons. If you ever need to replace it, you can buy it at any parts store versus the Heim, they have to order online. There's no parts stores near me that offer that, so it would have made more sense to go with the 1 ton, and that's something that I do regret. The Heim joints also on this kit, because Heims are free, whenever you hit a bump, you do hear the drag link hitting, not hitting, but like lifting up and going back down. That's something that's pretty annoying to me, and that's pretty much the only complaint I have. It made my steering a whole lot stiffer, and it did solve my death wobble for me since I had some worn out drag links, so that's something to keep in mind. So now the third thing that Jeffrey recommends is a double cardan Driveshaft conversion kit. And yes, that is something you're gonna need, whether it's 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch, 6.5-inch lift. You're gonna have to upgrade the front driveshaft. It's not gonna last. It might work for a little bit, but it's gonna go out. On Chris's Jeep, when we took it off-roading, we were going up a hill and it started to make noise. So that's something we're gonna fix on his. I'm actually going to remove my drive shaft, give it to him, and then I'm gonna get a custom built one for mine. And what he has linked down there is Rusty's Offroad, and they make a Tom Woods custom drive shaft built to your length. So that's something to keep in mind when you're lifting your Jeep. You do wanna change out the front drive shaft. If you're doing about a 2-inch lift, you might be able to get away with the stock one for a little bit, but eventually it will give out and you're gonna have to upgrade to the double cardan. So an important part in this, and it's the next item, is springs. And what Jeffrey recommends is Rusty springs, which is what I have. I have the 4.5-inch springs from Rusty's. He also recommends the Metal Cloak TJ springs that you have to modify to make fit. So for the Metal Cloak springs, they are gonna sit about 1 inch higher compared to the TJ. So if it says 3.5-inch lift on TJ, it's gonna be 4.5-inch on the WJ, just so you guys are aware. Next, you're gonna need is shocks, and Jeffrey recommends either bilsteins, Fox, or BDS. Originally, I had bilsteins before I put this lift on. So when I was lifting my Jeep, I actually wanted to run Fox, but they were too expensive for me. And bilsteins are the next best thing that you can get at an affordable price. So that's what I wanted to buy, but it was 2020, things were back ordered and I did not want to wait. So what I ended up doing is I went on OfferUp, I searched the Fox shocks, and what popped up a lot were the Gladiator shocks. A lot of people were taking them off because they were lifting their Jeep and they were really cheap. So I got the full set of 4, and they're just like the basic Fox 2.0 shocks. So you're gonna get the same quality for like half the price. You do need at a minimum of 4.5 inches of lift. I recommend on the front going a little bit higher than 4.5, maybe like add the rough country spacer on there just to get a little bit more lift for those shocks. In the rear, they're perfect, but the front, they're a little bit too long, even at 4.5 inches of lift. But they do ride good. They're a little bit stiffer than bilsteins. These are more geared towards the dirt. So you guys are aware, they are a little bit more stiff. Another good upgrade that is recommended that I do want to do eventually, I just don't have the funds for it right now, is an SYE rear drive shaft. So what that means is slip yoke eliminator. So instead of it moving back and forth out of the gears, it's a fixed position, and on the drive shaft is where you have the adjustability instead of on the transfer case. And if you lift it at 6 inches of lift, the rear drive shaft can actually pop out. Definitely want to upgrade the rear drive shaft if you're at 6 inches of lift. The next thing you want to get is a track bar. And originally I had ran a JKS track bar and the threads ended up wallowing out. So I did upgrade to the Trailforge. And let me tell you, comparing both of them side by side, the Trailforge is way thicker than the JKS, way stronger, has a Johnny joint on there versus the JKS has like rubber bushings that go out after like a month. The Trailforge one, it worked for me perfectly. It was really great. I do recommend it. I honestly still have it. We are saving it in case we need it for Chris's Jeep. I upgraded to the over the axle track bar with the steering kit, so I don't need that. But I do recommend you guys upgrading to a Trailforge track bar. It's well worth the money. So now we're to the end of the post and what he recommends for short arms. This is if you don't want to run the long arms. I do recommend you guys doing the long arms, save up a little bit more and get the long arms. Well worth it. When you go over a bump, it just glides over it. I don't have them in the rear, so when I go through the front, it just eats the bump. On the rear is where you hear it clunk and hitting when you go over a bump because it doesn't have enough travel. Get the long arms, well worth it. But he does recommend the Trailforge short arms or core 4x4 tier 3 or 4. So on the core tier 3, you get a bushing on one side and then a Johnny joint on the other. Tier 4, you get Johnny joints on both sides. On Trailforge, you get a bushing on one side and a Johnny joint on the other. In the description for Trailforge, he does state that that is the best setup that he has found for the WJs, and I have them in the rear. They are great quality. They're super beefy, so you don't have anything to worry about with Trailforge. I haven't used Core 4x4, but in the Jeep WJ community, it is well respected as a good product. So if you're looking for short arms, also consider them. They also have a good track bar as well, but I would recommend Trailforge because that's what I've run, and I know that that's good quality. And something that's not listed here are quick disconnects for the sway bar in the front. What I recommend you do there is get the JKS ones. Those actually fit the Jeep. They extend long enough. I have the Rusty's one, and honestly, it's not really meant for a WJ. It says it is, but I think it's geared towards the XJs and ZJs. On the WJs, it doesn't adjust enough for the height that it's supposed to be at on the front, so I don't recommend it. Another thing is it only connects to one tab instead of going through both. On the XJs, there's a thick tab, just one for the sway bar link compared to a WJ that has like 2 tabs and they're thinner, so they bend. I don't recommend it for a WJ, but I do recommend their springs. Another thing that's not listed is on the rear, the aarm. I recommend going with the iron rock one and upgrading flex joints to all 3. It'll make it easier on the install, and replacing bushings on it, it's really hard. It's really hard to take them out. So I recommend you do the flex joints because they can disassemble and you can rebuild them no problem. Having the iron rock aarm also makes it easy to install and remove if you ever have to, compared to the stock aarm. Another thing to think about when you're ordering parts for your WJ, if you're going 4.5 inch lift to 6 inch, I recommend upgrading the brake lines, getting some longer ones. When you do flex, especially with long arms, you are gonna extend the stock ones, so I do recommend adding some new ones that are extended. And if you do long arms in the rear, you're gonna have to do some adjustments to the exhaust, just so you guys know. I'm short arm in the rear, so I haven't messed with any of that, but that's something to keep in mind when upgrading. Now, once you do have your lift installed and it's all nice and pretty with new parts, you're gonna need new wheels and tires. I am running the Falcon Wall Peak MTs. Those were pretty affordable tires. They're kind of hard to get right now with everything backed up, but they are great tires. They have worn down really well. I've only taken it to the dirt here locally. I haven't gone to any really hard off-road spots, but locally, they've been doing great. They go up hills like nothing, so, and I don't air down, just as is. And to match those tires, I recommend getting Rock Tricks. They are affordable wheels that you can buy on Amazon, shipped to your home, or you can buy directly through their website, but they look great. They have new styles coming out pretty often. And all the wheels that I got, they did balance great, no issues there. So I do recommend Rock Tricks wheels if you guys are looking for some new wheels. And another thing, if you're looking for any lighting parts for the inside of your Jeep, hit up najaraffroad.com. We have some cool shirts. We got a bunch of cool stuff on there, so check it out. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below your setup, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.